All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. This time, we're actually going to have Impact as well as AEW.
Yeah.
We discuss a lot of Jericho Appreciation Society with Ricky Starks. We talk about the Elite Match 5. We talk about a little Action Andretti. We talk about William Regal with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Samoa Joe, Hook, Jon Moxley, Guns, Swerve Strickland, Jamie Hayter, Top Flight, Eddie Kingston, Jake Cargill, Willow Nightingale, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. In some ways, we'll talk, we'll explain ourselves a little bit more, at least with AEW. But before we get to that discussion, we're going to talk about Impact. And take it away, Marty.
Yeah, so we start off Impact with the Knockouts Tag Team titles on the line. Death Dolls, which they have what's the word I'm looking for? But either way, they have used Freebird rules for Death Dolls. So initially, it was Havoc and Taya Valkyrie that were the Knockouts Tag Team champions, but like I said, they are implementing Freebird rules. So with that, Havoc and or Jessica and Rosemary are defending against Gazelle Shaw and Deonna Purrazzo. And the only reason that Gazelle Shaw is there is because Deonna needed a partner since Chelsea Green went home. So Deonna was like, well, if you're more than willing to help, have at it. But that was only a one-time thing, as the two are, pretty much said never again for teaming up. Death Dolls retained. Before the main event, tensions rise between Mickie James and Jordynne Grace. Then we have there's a lot to talk about with this segment. Sami Callihan comes down to the ring, says he's sick and tired of being beaten down by the design week after week, calls him out to the ring. Diener says that Sami is sick, says the people don't care about him, and says he has an antidote to his sickness, which is violence. And they surround the ring, and Sami's like, no, hey, I don't want to fight. And Diener's like, okay, well, we don't, if it's a truce that you want, we don't make truces. And Sami's like, I'm not here to make a truce either. Instead, he wants to join the design. But Angel doesn't want Sami to join simply because he's weak and not chosen. And Sami says, well, do I want the design or does the design want me? But after that, the design beat him down. So we get more of the design and Sami Callihan. It's almost kind of like currently what's happening with Ricky Starks and the Jericho Appreciation Society, but we'll get into that. We go backstage with Josh Alexander and Tommy Dreamer, and Josh Alexander forgives Tommy Dreamer and asks Dreamer to kind of lay back, and Josh Alexander's like, I will handle Bully Ray going forward. Then we have more in-ring action. Speedball Mike Bailey took on Yuya Uemura. He beat Yuya, and then after the match, Kenny King appears on the Tron to say that he's in Arena Mexico because he'll never face Speedball. We get some announcements for matches at Hard to Kill. So at Hard to Kill, we learn that it will be a 4-way elimination tag team match for the Impact Tag Team titles between the Motor City Machine Guns, Heath and Rhino, the Major Players, and Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Then we go back to in-ring action, and what was supposed to be a tag team match between Jason Hotch and John Skyler versus Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger turns into Bully Ray beating down on Skyler and Hotch. And Bully asks, where's Josh Alexander? But before then, Bully zip-tied Jason Hotch to the top rope, Josh Alexander came down to fend off Bully Ray with a steel chair, and he cuts Hotch free. But then Hotch and Skyler help Bully Ray beat down Alexander and zip tie him to the ropes. But then Tommy Dreamer comes down to lay out Bully Ray. But the numbers game is too much for Diener and Alexander. Bully pile drives Dreamer and then crushes him with a ladder, forcing Alexander to watch. And with that, we now know that at Hard to Kill, it will be full metal mayhem between Josh Alexander and Bully Ray for the Impact World title. But before then, Scott D'Amore has sent both Bully Ray and Josh Alexander home. So we're going to get completely fresh, completely they're both going to be at 100%, and they're both going to be just gunning for violence at Hard to Kill. It's literally it's the literal namesake for that match between those two men. Bully Ray is going to be hard to kill for Josh Alexander, but Josh Alexander's got to overcome the odds and just fight Bully Ray to the absolute death in order to retain the Impact World title. And honestly, something tells me that they're really going to give Josh Alexander the Impact World title for a whole year. And if that's the case, then that would be nice. Because honestly, so far we have not had an Impact World title reign last even a full year, or even longer than a full year. So I think they're gonna ultimately give Josh Alexander that luxury. So we have more in-ring action, and Steve Maclin versus Rich Swann ends in a double countout. But Steve Maclin isn't done, and he puts his hands on an Impact official and is completely unchained, beating down security and Rich Swann. So it's safe to say that Rich Swann and Steve Maclin is not over, at least for the time being. We get backstage with Eddie Edwards and Alicia, and Alicia supports Eddie in his pact to eliminate his past. Then we have another announcement for a match made official for Hard to Kill. At Hard to Kill, it will be Trey Miguel taking on Black Taurus for the X Division title. And in the main event, Jordynne Grace and Mickie James beat Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans. But then after the match, tensions boil over, and Mickie kicks Jordynne right in the face. It's safe to say that those two women are absolutely going to beat the hell out of one another for the Impact World title, or I'm sorry, the Knockouts World title, and especially considering it's title versus career. Jordynne Grace is putting her title on the line against Mickie's career. It's part of Mickie James' last rodeo, and not for nothing, with all due respect to Mickie, I think her career comes to an end at Hard to Kill.
It's tough as hell. I mean, it'd be nice to see her as the Impact,
As the
Knockouts World Champion, but
one more time. But
who knows what could have really happened. So we're gonna get into AEW talk. Ricky comes out, start the show, and says how much it would be nice to be the champion right now. I'm sure it would be. Who wouldn't want to be the world champion right now? And says that he lost like a man, but MJF won like a coward. Says MJF doesn't have a pair of balls, which is probably more true than not. Says it isn't the end of the road, just the start. Says if he has to work his way back to the top, bring out all the opponents so he can beat them one by one. Then the Jericho Appreciation Society come out and say they've been watching Ricky for a long time. Jericho says Ricky is $1 million talent. He says he's not quite ready to be world champion. Jericho Appreciation Society are trying to recruit Ricky to get him on the right path. Ricky is throwing a lot of insults on Jericho, and says that J and JAS stands for jobbers. And says if there is something to suck, I got something for you, and tries to unzip his pants. Taking it a little too far.
This is a TV-14 show, sir.
Not a rated X show. and lays down to challenge the Jericho, which they are going to be competing on the January 4th edition of Dynamite with a new look and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to that when I was going to be in Seattle, Washington. I think I'm hoping that Ricky Starks beats Jericho. And then the Jericho Appreciation Society beats down Ricky, and then Action Andretti saves Ricky. I'm smelling a tag team match of some kind. I don't know if it's going to be before or after. I'm thinking it's probably going to be on, probably holiday, New Year's Smash, probably on Rampage, if anything, more than Dynamite. But ultimately, I do think that there's going to be a tag team match before Jericho and Ricky compete one-on-one on Dynamite. But the real question is, does Ricky need JAS, or does the JAS need Ricky Starks?
I kind of think JAS. No, actually, neither. Ricky Starks does not need the JAS, and the JAS does not need Ricky Starks.
I mean, I understand. And look what happened with even okay. I mean, we didn't have it written down, but Ricky did state during his old promo with the Jericho Appreciation Society, he's like, "Hey, Daniel, ever since you joined the Jericho Appreciation Society, well, what have you done? You've lost your title," which is true. He did lose the Pure Wrestling Championship.
And honestly, that was like such a hot angle, and they could have done so much more with it. Like, because basically the whole thing was like Daniel Garcia was like conflicted about his stance in the JAS, and then he had Danielson and Wheeler, and basically like it was more so Danielson than anybody that was trying to like convince Daniel Garcia to like join the Blackpool Combat Club, but then like nothing really came of that, and then Daniel Garcia proved his allegiance to the JAS and like basically was saying like, oh no, I'm not a professional wrestler, I'm a sports entertainer.
I mean, I look at it this
way.
They
could have done so much with that.
I know there's a lot more they can do with Ricky Starks right now, but it ultimately wouldn't shock me if it did lead to him joining the JAS. I know there's a lot of members.
I don't know how I feel about that, though.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how I truly feel about it either, but it seems like that might be the road that they might go. I look at
it this way. If it actually proves to help Ricky Starks, then fine.
It might. I mean, we don't really truly know.
But ultimately, I happen to agree with Ricky Starks. Like, look at what the hell it's done, for Daniel Garcia joining the JAS. Like, yeah, he won the Pure title in Buffalo, but then, like, not even a few months later, he lost it.
Right.
Back to Wheeler Yuta. So it's like, what are they truly doing?
Who knows?
Daniel Garcia.
I of course will definitely have to look more into it and see what's going to happen. So we get on to match 5. The Elite faced off against Death Triangle in a no disqualification match, enforcing match. So the Elite actually, as I predicted, beat Death Triangle to force a match 6, and then the Death Triangle beat them down after the match.
So yes, the next time those two trios face off.
Yeah, later tonight.
Count anywhere.
Yeah, it's gonna be a falls count anywhere match, and then if the Elite win that match, they will force again match 7, and it will be a
Escalera de la Muerte.
Basically a ladder match for the trios tag team titles, where ultimately, like I said, I think that it's going to be Death Triangle that are going to win match 7. Then again, it could be the Elite that win it and then have to deal with Death Triangle or House of Black. We'll talk about a little bit of House of Black further on in our show. But yeah, the Elite are winning these matches that matter
Oh
the
my
most
god.
right now, and looking to force match 6, match 7, and try to get those World Trios tag team titles. Um, so after the match, after that, we get into our next little segment. Jericho throws a fireball at Action Andretti. Thoughts? Um,
I mean, it's obvious because Action Andretti's obviously got to sell, like, having a fireball thrown in his face, so he's probably going to be out of action for, like, a little while. So,
so ultimately, I
I
think
mean,
it's going to be
there's
after
still going to
their.
be a tag team match. I
I,
can
I,
see it,
I
but
think Action Andretti is going to be involved with that match after the New Year. I think he's
yeah,
gonna help Ricky Starks beat Jericho, and that's gonna lead into like a tag team match on the next Dynamite afterwards or on Rampage or so. So ultimately, I think that's what's gonna be the plan. Is that it's gonna lead to a tag team match. I think, or maybe lead into the pay per view. I think Action Andretti and Ricky Starks are going to team up against the Jericho Appreciation Society. But you know what would be interesting too to see? What if Ricky Starks turns on Action Andretti, joins up with the Jericho Appreciation Society,
hmm,
and this leads to a whole angle between them, and then leads into the pay per view with Ricky Starks and Action Andretti? That I could see happening.
I mean, honestly, Ricky Starks works so much better as a
The
heel,
heel?
anyways.
Exactly. So I
So
really do think that you're going to see Ricky Starks turn heel on Action Andretti, join the Jericho Appreciation Society, and maybe face off against Action Andretti in like a nice like little feud because Action Andretti is signed with currently with
yeah,
AEW, and this is could be the first big storyline for him in
it
his
could
whole
be his,
entire
like,
career.
it could pretty much be like his big break in AEW, having a having a program and a match with. I mean, like, think about it this way too. He pretty much debuted for the company, getting a huge win over Chris Jericho on Dynamite, and then that's you know now he would be entering possibly into
Honestly,
a program
he
with
has a
Ricky
lot of
Starks. Like,
charisma, and he's a big time like high flying
yeah,
wrestler that people can get behind. I think he can be a sell, somebody that can, help this company in the future. So why not? Um, so going forward, William Regal has helped out Brian Danielson in so many ways and said he loved having William Regal in AEW. Says there are consequences to your actions. Says MJF has to learn from that and has been hearing everything that he's been saying. Calls him out, and then Ethan Page comes out and says if he is going to jump him in line, he will turn him into a vegetable. And Brian wants
Vegetable Man.
vegetable man.
Which Brian was like, "Were you trying to did you just insult me by calling me Vegetable Man?" To which Stokely Hathaway calls Brian Danielson a raggedy
Raggedy
bitch.
bitch. You raggedy bitch. And then Brian wants to fight here tonight, but Ethan Page had better thoughts. He says he wants to face um,
They will face off.
later tonight instead on New Year's Smash. Um, Thoughts on that one? I mean, ultimately, I'm grateful that like you're starting to, you're trying to give Ethan Page some opportunities to be shown on TV. Um, I'm grateful for that. It means that you haven't like totally given up on Ethan Page in the firm and everything like that. But ultimately, you do have to make Brian Danielson look at least somewhat strong heading into that pay per view match against MJF for the
Yeah.
world title. So I'm all for it. I really do think that Brian Danielson is going to beat Ethan Page. I don't see Ethan Page beating Brian Danielson later tonight at all. So um, another match that I could see, leading actually into the pay per view itself is John Moxley and Adam Hangman Page because they're gonna go with the whole storyline. Oh, wait, Hangman Page is not cleared. medically cleared yet, this and that, but they're fighting each other. Um, but John Moxley wants to know when him and Adam Hangman Page will face off. Thoughts? Ultimately, I think it's going to lead into the pay-per-view at Revolution. Revolution?
Yeah, it's Revolution.
Revolution, yeah. So, I think that's what they're going at. I mean, Adam Hangman Page, they've been saying that every week, oh, he's not medically cleared to compete yet. He's getting held back by security. So, um, I'm liking what I'm seeing from this. I'm hoping it leads into like whoever wins can get a future title shot, honestly, because there needs to be something that's going to come out of this whole rivalry, this whole thing with each other, honestly. So we'll happen to see. Um, so yeah. Speaking of a match that's actually going to happen later tonight as well, Samoa Joe and Wardlow are going to be facing off against each other.
Yes.
What
What could, I guess, in some way be described as highly anticipated, but in a sense, like, almost not really. I mean,
ultimately, I think they can put together a good match. Wardlow, when he has to, will put together great matches against, highly anticipated opponents. But ultimately, I think Samoa Joe is going to beat Wardlow and retain the TNT Championship. Because honestly, I like what he has done with the TNT Championship a hell of a lot better than what Wardlow has done with the TNT Championship.
Yeah.
So yeah. We're kind of going to rapid fire at least the rest of this stuff for, what was this, the rest of Dynamite, right?
The rest of Dynamite.
Hook beats Exodus Prime. John Moxley beats Darius Martin. And then, surprisingly, FTR has been on a losing streak as of late.
Yeah.
They have not been looking good. Ever since, losing the ROH World Tag Team titles, they've been on a losing streak because of it.
Which, by the way, we do still plan on discussing Final Battle in deep length. But
yeah, the Guns surprisingly get the upset win against FTR. I mean, ultimately, I don't. They didn't really. I don't think they won it clean. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure.
No, I think they used some dirty tactics or got the ref distracted or something to roll up FTR.
But yeah,
But either way, they got the roll up.
They got the roll up victory over FTR, but even still, that's kind of shocking to me. It's a pretty big upset for the Guns to beat FTR, who has been on such a tear this year. But as of late, haven't looked like the same, team that held 3 titles, all this year and won 3 different titles. And ever since, losing to the Acclaim, they have not been the same, unfortunately. But yeah, so getting on to our next thing here, Swerve Strickland is now paired with Parker Boudreaux and Graydon Gottsman to form the Mogul Affiliates, and they beat down Keith Lee to make a statement. It's crazy.
But not before Rick Ross ended up calling Keith Lee a big motherfucker.
Yeah.
On live television.
On live television, no bleeps or anything like that.
Yeah, it was not censored.
Maybe TBS is like, it's Rick Ross, so I think we can let one slide.
Well, I don't even think they really expected it more so.
They probably didn't.
That's why it wasn't censored.
I don't think it's going to hurt them as bad as like when Moxley F-bombed on live television.
No, I was going to say, Moxley would have had to eat a hefty fine for...
Rick Ross, If he
Rick
has
Ross
to,
is a celebrity.
I mean, he's gonna have enough money. He'll probably be like, yeah,
Exactly.
just
The
let.
man's a
He's probably gonna give it to him and it's like, yeah, donate to charity or something like that.
Right. I mean, but
Who
who
knows?
knows?
But honestly, I'm all for this. Maybe it can be another trio that can go after the World Trios Tag Team titles. I mean, ultimately,
Yeah, I mean,
because that division is ever growing.
yes, it is.
So,
I mean, the thing is, though, it's almost as if they're like giving more focus to the trios titles than the tag team titles, like your actual tag team titles.
I mean,
And
yeah,
even
but
in just in general, like the tag team like scene in AEW is like kind of dwindling because of the ever growing trios like division, I guess you could say division. But I mean, you know, for
I
what it
know.
is, the tag team titles with the acclaimed are like still kind of like there's still some fresh storylines with the tag team titles, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like you're just like creating teams at this point to even try to go up against the acclaimed because that's ultimately why you have like because from last week on Dynamite you kind of started it and now you're building off of it with the acclaimed and like Jay Lethal and like his whole gang.
Right.
So
Alright, so Jamie Hayter and Hikaru Shida face off in the main event of Dynamite for the AEW Women's World Title. Um, and to no real big surprise, Jamie Hayter retains, and then Tony Storm saves Shida from the beatdown, and then Saraya comes out to beat down Britt Baker. What does this mean?
I smell a women's trios match.
Yeah, I do too. I see Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, and Rebel against Hikaru
Saraya,
Shida, Tony Storm, and Saraya. So we'll see if Rebel's actually going to get back into the ring or not. I'm
I
sure
don't see
she
why
will,
she wouldn't. I mean,
especially for a one-off trios world women's tag team title. So we're getting onto the Rampage side of things. Um, Top Flight and AR Fox actually win the
that
Battle Royal
trios casino battle royale.
and get the $300,000. And what does this mean for them going forward? Ultimately, maybe a future title shot. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean,
ultimately, I would love to see.
I was gonna say, like, no disrespect to AR Fox, but like,
Let Top
Top
Flight
Flight have yeah.
let Top Flight get their chance after the Acclaim for the World Tag Team titles.
Like,
I think they deserve it. They
even if they have to
deserve it.
challenge the Briscoes on ROH like weekly TV on Honor Club, like, even if that has to be,
Do
like,
we know when that's actually going to start for
I have
ROH?
no idea.
That's the thing.
I have no
I
idea.
assume there has to be an announcement coming
But
soon.
either way, uh, the weekly television like tapings for ROH will be on Honor Club, which by the way, stay tuned for that because once tapings actually like come out and everything, we will be talking about it on this show.
Yeah, we will.
So, um, once that happens, going forward, it will be Dynamite and Rampage talk on top of Impact and Ring of Honor. So,
So yeah, I mean,
but
ultimately,
you
I
know,
mean, Top Flight.
even if you gotta give them even if you gotta build them up to a AEW tag team title shot against the Acclaimed, like
Top
make
Flight.
it happen.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I agree.
But ultimately, I think what's going to happen, at least for the time being, is Top Flight and AR Fox are possibly going to get a trios title shot against
Yeah,
whoever ends up winning that best of seven series, which more than likely
That's
will
what
be
it
the
should
elite.
have been. It
But
should have been like whoever wins gets a future trios tag team title shot. Then fucking $300,000. Like, ooh, cool. Nothing like getting some money, but still, like, could he
I
be like,
mean,
could he be like, oh, we're gonna give you these $300,000? Can we get a title shot? Like, what are they gonna do with that money? Like, that's what
probably donate it to charity.
that's like. I guess so. I mean, maybe. Who knows? But
Well,
it should
either
have
way,
like it would have made more sense if it was like, oh, whoever wins this battle royal gets a future title shot against whoever wins between uh the Elite and Death Triangle. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Because then if it ultimately was AR Fox and Top Flight, I'm like, cool, they get another opportunity at the World Trios Tag Team titles, and
yeah,
now get to face off against whoever wins
right.
for a shot to actually, win them. That's pretty cool. I would be all for that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, congratulations on winning the money. I mean, what does that really do for you guys? I mean,
Yeah,
it might get you a future title shot, but doesn't really do much.
yeah.
So going forward, Eddie Kingston and Ortiz say they're done with the House of Black, tormenting everybody and them. I want a piece of them, but ultimately, they haven't really been targeting Ortiz. Could Ortiz be the true backbone of the House of Black and actually have a working relationship with the House of Black? And could Ortiz truly be Eddie Kingston's enemy than his friend?
That's interesting because, like, you know, knowing the backstory of Eddie Kingston and Ortiz is like they've always been like essentially ride or die. Ever since their days in Impact with LAX. So I don't know. I mean, Ortiz
Ultimately,
could ultimately have an agenda against Eddie Kingston for all we know.
I think that he might be talking about somebody else than Ortiz. I think Ortiz is still going to be with Eddie Kingston, but I don't think he's truly, going to turn his back on Eddie Kingston. I think they were talking about somebody else that's going to align themselves, you know, because when he was talking about like, oh, if my enemy's enemy is my friend, then you know, is he truly your friend? I'm like, I was hearing it's like, what the fuck is he meaning? Like, is he trying to make any kind of sense about this? And then Eddie Kingston like kind of seemed a little like weary of like, can I actually trust Ortiz, or is he gonna turn his back on me? So ultimately, I think it might be somebody else that he's talking about than Ortiz, but who knows? I mean, maybe Ortiz is going to align himself with the House of Black and then take out Eddie Kingston. So who really
Well,
knows?
that's the thing too. Is like, how do we know it isn't possibly
Well, oh my
Santana?
God, I was just gonna think about it. That'd be something if it
However,
it could be Santana. This
however,
would
I
make
don't
the most.
know.
This would make the most sense.
Well,
And
that's
then
the thing
and
though, is I
then
don't know if I don't like because I heard that Santana and Ortiz like kind of fell out with one another. So like I don't know if maybe in the months that Santana has been out with his injury that they've been like you know making amends or whatever. But who's to say that Santana doesn't come back and ultimately like is the one that you know helps team back up with Ortiz, and then they turn on Eddie Kingston.
who knows? That'd be. I guess we'll definitely have to watch this and see.
Yeah,
So Jade Cargill,
not much to talk
not
about with
much
that.
about this. Beats Fort Vixen to stay undefeated is even
I'm
40,
telling you, man,
45 and 0.
they're gonna make her go 50-0 before she ultimately loses the TBS title.
Most likely. So Willow Nightingale will team with Ruby Soho to take on Anna JAS and Ty Mello later tonight. I think it was on Dynamite, right? Or is it on Rampage?
I think it's on Rampage, but
Um,
I could be
thoughts?
wrong. I don't know. I mean,
I hope
but
hopefully Willow Nightingale will prove to be the best partner for Ruby Soho to take them on. Honestly, I mean, who knows? Um, Honestly, I think that Willow Nightingale and Ruby Soho can beat JAS and Ty Mello. But we get interesting side of Powerhouse Hobbs that, I guess makes sense. I mean, he apparently that's the kind of side that we're going to see of Powerhouse Hobbs, that his past is what made him into the kind of man that he is today, and that he's going to literally just beat the living crap out of people. Like, I don't know how I feel about everything with Powerhouse Hobbs. It would be nice to see him actually um, do something as a singles competitor.
Yeah,
But ultimately, I don't know. This kind of what this seems like with Powerhouse Hobbs is kind of like the same thing that they were kind of doing with Miro. Is like, oh, why has everybody forsaken me? Why has my God forsaken me? And stuff like that. Um, so um, who knows? I mean, ultimately, it would be nice to actually see him, doing something as a singles competitor because
yeah,
ever since he left Team Taz, he was looking high and mighty, heading into that feud with Ricky Starks, and ever since uh, he lost to Ricky Starks,
yeah.
right? Ever since
Yeah,
ever
I'm
since
pretty sure.
losing to Ricky Starks, he hasn't really been the same ever since. So
Yeah, I was gonna say they kind of like they kind of rode a high with Powerhouse Hobbs, and like ever since leaving Team Taz, and like it seemed like he was actually gonna be the bigger star leaving Team Taz, but it actually ended up being Ricky Starks, which like it's fine, but at the same time it's like why couldn't both men
right,
have been stars leaving Team Taz? But that's just not how Tony Khan made it. But ultimately, I think you know, given time, like over time, Powerhouse Hobbs will actually be like made to look like a huge like monster,
right,
and like especially with like the direction that they're going right now with Powerhouse Hobbs, I really do feel like they're gonna like turn him into this like huge monster that is completely unstoppable, like almost in a sense like how they started booking Miro, like up until the point where he won the TNT title, and even during Miro's reign as the TNT champion. Like they just booked him as like this unstoppable monster that just cannot be beat. And then, ultimately they booked Miro to lose the TNT title to Sammy Guevara in Rochester, which I mean, it ultimately did make sense because, Rochester was like synonymous with Brody Lee, and like Brody Lee was very significant in the lineage and the history of the TNT title. So like it ultimately made sense why they had the TNT title change hands in Rochester, and even like more so both times in Rochester that AEW has come to town, the TNT championship has changed hands.
right.
So, but regardless, let's get back on track with honestly, I really do think that the direction that they're going to go with Powerhouse Hobbs is much like a Miro in the sense of like he's this unstoppable monster that just cannot be beat and like cannot be touched.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm hoping so.
I'm hoping so as well because ultimately, like if they decide to go a different route with Powerhouse Hobbs, then like I don't know really how I'll feel too much about it because like honestly, the main thing with Powerhouse Hobbs is like you cannot like lose all the momentum that you had with Hobbs. And like it seems like it might be a little too late for that, but
Right.
like I said, I'm willing to see how this whole thing with Powerhouse Hobbs plays out, and I'm willing to, give it some time. Maybe it'll actually play out in Hobbs's favor, and he'll actually be booked like a, you know, I'm willing to let it play out, but honestly, I think it might just be a little too late. I think you've already kind of lost all the momentum that you had with Powerhouse Hobbs, I'd like to be proven wrong. I really would, but as of late, it's like, Tony Khan hasn't really, and even more so, let it go on record that Tony Khan has actually stated he doesn't know how to keep the AEW roster happy.
Hmm. Really?
So he stated that in like an interview or like an article or whatever. He's like, "Oh, I don't know how to keep the AEW roster happy." Like, well, not for nothing. Um, you could start by giving, you know, by treating it like a business and not like a, you know, because at the end of the day, you are a businessman. Treat it like a business. Yes, I understand you love wrestling. That's fine. Everybody there does. But you have to understand wrestling is a business, so treat it like one. Don't be all like. Here's the thing, too. You got to put your personal relationships with your talent aside and actually, like, enforce some sternness. Like, be stern
Yeah.
with your
All
roster
right,
at
let's
times.
get back on track here.
But,
We're getting on to the main event of Rampage, where Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett face off against Daddy Ass Billy Gunn and Anthony Bowens. Well, it was Billy Gunn only because the week prior,
Caster is out.
Max Caster was out because of the chair shot to the head from
Guitar shot,
guitar shot
not chair shot.
from Jeff Jarrett. But ultimately, it was Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal that beat Billy Gunn and Anthony Bowens with the help, of course, from Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think this is going to lead into is Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett facing off against Anthony Bowens and Max Caster for the World Tag Team titles. I think this is going to be the
Yeah.
next opponents for them for the tag team titles, which I think I'm okay with.
I'm okay with it as long as you don't give Jarrett the strap.
Yeah.
Because honestly, then it'll just be TNA 2.0 with Jarrett always booking himself to go over.
So
And honestly, AEW does not need that.
So
So,
I'm okay with, them facing off for the World Tag Team titles, but ultimately I don't think that they're going to beat the Acclaimed for the titles, which would be fine with me. Ultimately, this is going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Make sure to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports. Um, our channel is Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. You can catch the show on YouTube and also Facebook Watch. You can catch usually out of turn 4 and out of turn 4 on YouTube and Facebook Watch when it is in season. It is currently out of season on hiatus right now, but you can also watch Sunday Morning Tinkle on YouTube, and also listen to us on all different podcasts platforms, which is every Sunday, again, every Sunday at 9 a.m. This show is every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and then out of turn 4 when it is in season is every Tuesday at 5. We will see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.